This video is sponsored by ControlPlane. I have a very stupid idea and I want to see if it works. I'll explain. Fresh is this next-gen web framework that works based on Deno. Deno is a modern JavaScript runtime that's basically like Node.js except not, and you can import stuff directly from URLs. This is built-in support for TypeScript, and it's actually written in Rust. I've been playing with it, and I've been looking for an excuse to use it in a video. And ControlPlane takes container images and lets you deploy them in the same way on Amazon, Google, and Azure, which is the Microsoft cloud. It's really cost efficient because it automatically scales your resources up and down based on what's needed. You can choose whichever cloud makes the most sense. You can set a bunch of locations. For now, we're just going to make a simple fresh app and we're going to deploy it there. And then I have something else in mind that involves Rust. So don't go away. There's Rust in this video, just not at first. The first thing I want to do is install Deno because I don't have it yet. There we go. So you can probably get it through your package manager, but then it's out of date. Rust app can auto-update Rust. Same thing here with Deno. So it's not in my path yet. I need to add it. I'm just going to do that real quick. Start a new terminal, and I have Deno. We want it because that's how you start a new fresh project. It's actually running a URL, and that creates the project. And it's downloading all the dependencies it needs. Tailwind CSS, sure. I do use VSCode. Thank you very much. And the project's already created, so I'm going to open it in here, and then we're going to run it. I think it's Deno task start. Again, it's going to download some dependencies, going to cache stuff, so the second time you do it, it's actually much faster, as you can see. And then open this, and it works because even though this is all running a VM as usual, the port is being forwarded automatically over the SSH connection that there is between the host operating system, which is Windows 11 in this case, and the guest operating system, which is Ubuntu 2010, I believe. And you can see there's an error here. And this is unfortunate, but I already complained about it on social media, and there's a workaround. And that's another reason to install Deno through its own installer, is that you can also downgrade. So we're downgrading to the last version that actually works. So Deno task start again. And listening here. Now it doesn't load. So the problem with port forwarding in VS Code is that it's kind of wonky. In this case, I'm pretty sure I know how to fix it. You can go into net internals and just sockets and close all that. And then just try again. But I don't like that it's unreliable, so I'm going to do port forwarding myself. I'm just going to do a new Windows terminal here, and then forward port, I think it was 8000, yes. And my VM is named Sonic. And now it's forwarded again. Let's try it, yes, and it'll work better than the VS Code built-in thing. But yeah, so this is fresh. This is the demo app that it generates. You can press plus and it does plus, you can press minus and it does minus. And it's not doing any network requests when you do that. This is all actually client side. So if we take a look at this, at the sources that have been generated for us, it's setting up the Twin plugin which is Tailwind CSS, and then it's starting. We can control click, so there's intelligence here, which is great. You can see the paths are a little wonky. It's like HTTPS Deno land. It's because the imports are actually from URLs, which you can't see here because it's using aliases in this import map here. So anytime you import fresh something, it's actually importing that URL / server.ts. So it's starting something. It's making a new server context from the manifest. This is the manifest. It's generated by fresh. I'm assuming from walking the disk, you can see there's routes here and islands. So the code we actually have here, okay, there's a head element. I'm assuming it's kind of like a portal, even though most of this markup is going to end up in the body. Let's inspect that. So this div here is that div here, and these are Tailwind CSS classes. Tailwind is a CSS framework. For example, this is padding of 4. You can see actually 1 rem. Cool. Max width screen MD is like medium. Yeah, so max width is 768px. And then it's using a counter, and the counter is an island. So this is the interesting thing about fresh. If we look at the page sources here, is that actually what is being served? You know what? I don't trust it. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna curl and pipe into code. And now we have the actual thing. Can I format this real quick? Very nice. Very nice. So yeah, there's a bunch of styling going on. that it's generating only the style rules that we use from Tailwind. This is kind of one of the selling points of Tailwind. It has a compiler. For example, we have max with screen medium here, but we don't have like screen large or small or something. We only have the one that we're using. And Twind is a Tailwind compiler in JavaScript, so it actually runs in the browser, but also here server side. So yeah, we can see the markup here. The head is going in the head. You can see the title here, it ended up here. And then this div is here. The logo is cache busted. This is what this query string is for. And then this is the counter element, which is actually being rendered. So if we go in here, you can see there's the markup. But they already have all the right styles, and they show -1 + 1. It's showing a count of 3, which I believe is, yeah, it's the initial value for the counter. But then it becomes interactive, and this is kind of something that people in the front-end world have been trying to do for a while. It's like you do server-side rendering, and you send that markup over, and it immediately loads and is rendered by the browser, but then it can be hydrated with some data, and that allows it to become interactive as you can re-render just that part with JavaScript in the browser. And just that part bit is the islands bit. It's like most of the page is static except for this part right here, which is the counter, and yeah, it just works. And you can see how it's being hydrated down here. These are the properties of the button. Start is 3. And then this is for Twind, I would imagine. This is just a list of classes that are being used. So it's getting that element, which is here, just embedding the state as like a JSON script in the DOM, and then getting that element, parsing it as JSON, and calling Twind on it, and reviving. Oh, it's calling it reviving instead of rehydrating. Yeah, I don't know. Front-end people, they'll have to make up new words. This is pretty much all we need to know about Fresh for now. But the dev thing is very nice. So instead of like, it has live reload. So instead of saying welcome to Fresh, we can say, hi YouTube, this is a sample Fresh app, which we're now going to deploy on control plane. The next thing we want to do is actually deploy this somewhere. Fresh is made by Deno. Deno is not just this JavaScript runtime thing, it's also a company. They will try to sell you on Deno deploy. And I'm sure it's great that I don't want to be locked into their own solution. I want to make sure that it works wherever I want to deploy it. The nice thing about container image is that you're not locked into their way of doing things. You can just deploy it anywhere else if you suddenly decide you want to move. We're going to make a Docker image for it. They actually have a sample Docker image here. I guess we can try using that. So we have this Docker image here, and we should be able to run it. So Docker run, we run the container and then try to curl, and it doesn't work because that port is not exposed. It is listening to port 8000 and on the network interface of the container. So we actually want to expose that, and I'm going to try and remember the syntax. Is that it? Hey, I did it. Practice. It's just running this in production. And this works because the entry point is Deno, and then the command is run. So it's going to do Deno run -A, because another big thing with Deno is sandboxing. Like if we do Deno run main.ts, yeah, it requests the environment access, so you can allow. Same thing with like listening on network ports, and then it fails because the address already in use. But if you do -A, then it just allows everything. So that's great. We want to deploy that somewhere. So the way it works with control plane is you make a global virtual cloud, and I'm going to call it refresh. Next, you choose what locations you want. So I'm going to start out with just AWS and EU Central 1, because that's the closest location to me. But you can see that we have some in Amazon, some in Azure, and some in Google Cloud. Now we're in that GVC, we can create a new workload. We're going to call that refresh. Then we need to give it an image. So we're not actually going to use the Docker Hub at all, but we could deploy anything from there. We could pick up Postgres image and just deploy it. Instead, we're going to push something directly to control plane's Docker registry that they give us. Of course, we are going to need to set up Docker authentication for that. Yes. Nice. And now the tag is going to be fastline.controlplane.io/refresh latest. Cool. And just because I like to do that, I'm going to make a just file with it. Push is going to build. Build is going to Docker build. That's that thing we just did. So now if we just push. Oh, there's a 100 megabyte layer in there. We can use dive to see like why is the image so large. Okay, so 80 megabytes is the default distribution they're using, I'm assuming. 100 megabytes is adding the Deno binary, and then copying our actual sources is 90 kilobytes, and then caching all the dependencies 4 megabytes. Now that we've pushed it in our workload creation thingy, let's find out if it actually finds it directly. Yes, here it is. Refresh latest. It's going to be called refresh for sure. It does serve traffic on port 8000. So let's do that. All the default settings are probably fine. I do want it to auto scale so it doesn't cost me much. We are going to allow all inbound requests for this. Now the workload is created. The endpoint is here. If we visit it right now, it's not up yet, but we can actually keep an eye on the deployment here. And then in logs, we can see what it's actually doing. Aha, it is listening. So if we go back to info, we have a thing here, and yeah, it works. Look at that. So the JavaScript doesn't work. Okay, connection reset by peer. Oh, this is interesting. So what we're gonna do here is we could only allow it to like grab stuff from NTM, which I think is what it's trying to do at runtime. But I'm not gonna be. Allow all outbound requests. Cool, workload is updated, so now we just gotta wait for it to redeploy. It's gonna be version 3. It's not always as fast as I'd want it to be when deploying, but you can kind of keep an eye on what's happening here. 500 might actually be the application itself being unhappy. We can find that out in the logs. Deno.command is not a constructor. So here's what I think happened. The Dockerfile that Fresh gives us is actually a version of Deno that's too old. They say we should be using 132.1. Yeah, our image works now, so we can push it again. Aha, now it's all 200. Yay, finally. Okay, we did it. I have a stupid idea to make those deploys a lot faster. It involves Rust, so we're gonna need a Rust TCP proxy between control plane's own proxy and our Deno app. So I'm gonna change things up a bit. But that will happen in the next part of this video because the entire video was an hour and a half, so I had to break it down into parts. I hope you understand. But don't worry, there's going to be cliffhangers at the end, there's going to be recaps at the beginning. It's just like your favorite show, except it's just me coding and explaining stuff. Alright, see you next part.